Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel ABAP Seniors. In today's video, we will be discussing about the concept called buffering. So what is buffering, when to use buffering and the advantages of buffering we will be discussing in today's video. So what is buffering means? When you have to access the table data without hitting the database, then buffering comes into the picture. So how you can do that means, and why you have to store the data in some other place without hitting the database means, if you are hitting the database again and again, it will be like burdening the database and it will sometimes slow down the process or performance. So you have to enable the buffering, not for all the things, but if you are accessing it very frequently, you have to enable the buffering. So when you have to enable the buffering means, if you are hitting a table multiple times and you need the table data like in different variations and you will be accessing it very frequently, then in that case you have to go with buffering. So where the data will be stored means in the application server, the buffering data will be stored. So buffering type defines which table records are loaded into the buffer of application server when a table data is accessed. So buffering will enables you to load the table records into the application server buffer when a table is accessed. So we have three types of buffering: full buffering, single buffering, and generic buffering. So according to the usage of our need, we will be enabling this buffering type. Full buffering means all the records of the table will be loaded into the buffer of the application server when you are accessing any table record. So it means all the data whatever you have for the table will be loaded into the buffer of a application server. And single buffering. Single buffering means whatever the records which are very really accessed will be loaded into the buffer. And generic buffering. So generic buffering will have all the records of the table will be loaded into the application server or buffer, but with whatever the generic key fields we have specified, that only will be loaded into the buffer. This is the use of the generic buffering, and mostly we will be going with the generic buffering because we will be defining the fields whatever we need to be buffered. So that's why we will be going with the generic buffering mostly. And I think nowadays we are not at all using buffering in many of the scenarios. And if you are using the bufferings in CDS views, you won't be able to do uh, consume that serious view or writing so many complex joins like that. We have some restrictions on that, so we are not doing that nowadays. Like because of S4 HANA introduction, we are burdening the database more. So this is the concept which is already present, and we have taken that into consideration before, but in some of the cases we are still using buffering. I will show you in the system how it is looking in a table. So this is one of the table, and where you have to go is go to technical settings. In technical settings, we have the buffering option and we have these three options: buffering not allowed, buffering allowed but switched off, buffering activated. I have explained the meaning of three things while explaining the buffering annotations in CDS view. You can watch the video and you will get to know about that. And we have the buffering type also here: single records buffer, that means single buffering, and generic area buffer, generic buffering, and fully buffered, full buffering. So these are the types which we can see, and you can mark that whatever you need according to the usage. You can buffering allowed but switch it off, you can change, and you can do this one like whatever you need, and you can save your table. This is how you can do the buffering on your tables. Hope this video is useful to you. Please do like, share and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos.